What am I doing? You're keeping Do you want to stand a bit more here and then they can stand there, just so we get the light?
You're there, Jason. And we're just going to. So these are all the matches. So we'll just talk about some of the big games.
Okay,
Yeah.
They're going to give us a minute.
Right. Yeah. Fine. Hello again, we're here again at the Riley's Sports Bar in Haymarket. We've just done the draw for the 2014 Dafabet World Championship, and we're just going to get a bit of reaction and look through some of those big games. I'm here with Jason Ferguson, the chairman of the WPBSA. Jason, you played at the Crucible many times. I remember you playing Stephen Hendry in 1999, which was a great match. What's it like to play at the Crucible?
Well, I mean, it's an unbelievable experience.
Sorry.
You know,
Sorry.
this man's played at the Crucible a few times as well. But yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. He did beat me actually, but it's a great experience for me. 3 times I played there, and there is something very magical about walking from behind that curtain. And before I first went there for the first time, I remember players saying, you know, you will forget how to walk when you get behind that curtain. And you know, when that curtain opens and you walk out into the Crucible Theatre, you know, I was a young lad. I don't want to make you feel old, but I was watching Steve on TV. You know, he was my hero as a young lad. You know, and he was winning those world titles. And you walk out there, and to be part of that history of this sport is just amazing.
Sorry, just the people we were talking beforehand, the people that have walked out at the Crucible Theatre, giving it the big I am on their first time there, thinking that they wear a sparkly waistcoat or something a bit different. And a couple of names sprang to mind. Mark Johnston-Allen's first time walking out with black and white check trousers, and then collapsed on the table out there. The big walk-on was fantastic, couldn't pot a ball. Jimmy Mickey with a sparkly waistcoat, couldn't pot a ball even though he was... And Mark King with a question mark and an exclamation mark, and in the end that was probably how he played. But just walk out there. It's tough enough walking down those steps. It's so exciting for the players.
So is it actually just a question of keeping a low profile until you get on the table and try and let your snooker do the talking?
Yes, I think the first round, as we're aware, is such a tough round, and if you're ever going to collapse as a snooker player, even a talented snooker player, that first round is where it can all go wrong. But it is also the place where your dreams can unfold as well. So everybody's got a great chance. Only best of 19. I know it sounds like a long way, but the modern day game of snooker, best of 19's not the best of 19 of old. It's done pretty quickly.
Let's look at some of these the matches in the first round, and I think the one that's probably jumps to the eye for everyone is going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan, the defending champion, against Robin Hull. I mean, let's talk a bit about Robin. You know, he had all those health problems. He actually retired a few years ago, and now he's back. I mean, you've spoken to him a bit, Jason, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, Robin's been on the tour for quite some time and actually fell off the tour. And I have to say, I was in Poland this year when he actually won the European Championships to qualify for the main tour again. And, you know, even then he was thinking, shall I play? Shall I go back on the tour? You know, can I give it the discipline that it needs and the hard work? And he was very unsure back then. And right at the last minute decided I'll give it another go. He's back here, and what an achievement! He's actually playing at the Crucible Theatre again, you know, and against Ronnie. I mean, and these first round matches, let's be honest, everybody will be saying Ronnie will win again, Ronnie will win again. These first round matches, if anybody's going to take out one of these top seeds, it's these first round matches that are going to be important. And Robin is a very capable player.
Steve, Ronnie seems to have a little bit of an aura about him at the Crucible. Obviously, he's won it the last 2 years. What can somebody like Robin do to do his best to beat him?
Well, in some respects, a player like Robin Hull has a lot less problems than some of the other players that have been bashing their heads against him recently and coming up with nothing. And I think, and it's very hard to, it's very easy to make judgments on how players are playing when they play against Ronnie O'Sullivan, but it seems like a lot of the top players have gone into their shell recently playing against him because they're not playing their own game. They're certainly in awe of him or in his shadow. But the players outside of that bracket the likes of the qualifiers that come through, the new young kids, yeah, they'll be in awe of him in one respect, but they've got far less to lose than say a Ding Junhui or a Neil Robertson or a Sean Murphy or whoever, who all of a sudden thinking, well, I should now be able to play well against Ronnie O'Sullivan. These lads are going, they've got no chance. All their mates think they've got no chance, but they know they can play, so therefore they may mentally be in a better situation. Of course, when you go on the table and you're sitting in your chair and Ronnie O'Sullivan is making light work of difficult situations, it may be another story. But actually, Robin Hull, a great all-rounder, class act, if he gets off to a good start, and it's always the good start is always important, who knows?
And another one, looking at here, Stuart Bingham against Ken Doherty. I mean, Ken obviously delighted to get through the qualifying round. He was saying the other day he feels he's much more in your or Jimmy's mould, that he just loves playing snooker. He's not like Stephen Hendry, that he's going to give it up.
No, Ken's. Yeah, it's great to see Ken. He's such a great player. He's great. He's been a great ambassador for snooker. He does truly love the game, and it's nice to see him back at the Crucible, where I think he belongs as well. And if we get Ken on the right day, such a fluent player that he could cause his opponent a lot of trouble.
And we've got 4 debutants here at the Crucible, Jason, this year. Zhao Guodong, Robbie Williams, Kyron Wilson and Michael Wasley. All young lads, all kind of in their 20s, which is great to see some of the new crop coming through, isn't it?
Of course. I mean, there's so many new players now. You know, through the way the tour has grown, there's so many new players actually breaking through. We haven't got the same volume of qualifying rounds. Of course, we have in the World Championships, and these players have proved themselves here last week. So, I mean, you know, some very interesting players there. It's hard to say what's going to happen. These lads in the 20s, they're out there, they've a lot to prove. The one thing we do know is they're great players, they've battled away for, you know, the qualifying rounds. They're going to turn up at the Crucible. They will be in the winning spirit. These players have won matches, and they've won matches against great players as well. So we know they're in form. Any one of those top seeds in this championship knows that any of these players that have qualified through is dangerous. So, you know, all you can say is, we may see some new stars up here. I mean, one for me in particular, Zhao Guodong, made the final of the Shanghai Masters. Lost to Ding Junhui, obviously his home countryman. Zhao Guodong he's a fine young man. He's a great player. He's got a very good tactical game, and he's got an excellent temperament, and that might just prove worthwhile at the Crucible.
Of course, and Steve, thinking about some of the other big contenders for the title, Ding Junhui, amazing that he's won 5 ranking events this season, equalling the record set by Stephen Hendry. I mean, given the strength in depth in snooker these days, that's an extraordinary achievement, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and I think with Ding Junhui, even though possibly we've had time when he's not played at his best against Ronnie O'Sullivan this season, I think he's come of age. And it's tough to know when players do come of age, but I think you've got to say now, Ding Junhui is the full snooker player mentally as well. This may be his best chance, and he may be ready to win the World Championship this year, and he may do it in style. The other player that has yet to come of age, but I think he's knocking on the doors of it, is Judd Trump, and I think he's getting an all-round game that's going to take him further in the game generally. He's of an age, he's got a few years on some of them, so he's got a bit more time on, so we probably haven't seen the best of him yet, but if Judd Trump completes the rounded snooker player, he's going to be tough to beat as well one day.
Thanks, Jensen. I think we're going to bring in someone now who's definitely top of the rankings when it comes to snooker journalism. That's Hector Nuns from The Times. Hector, a lot of great stories coming out of the qualifiers, weren't there? Particularly Jamie Cope, you've had a lot of coverage on him today.
Absolutely, Ivan. Yeah, I mean, you were there yourself as well for the most of it, and I've certainly been up there for the last 2 days for these final qualifying rounds, and they were. I can't remember a year in recent years when there's been so many very good stories coming out of the qualifiers, and I don't mean just the debutants, of which there are, I think, 4 in total. As well as that, you've had people like Jamie Cope, who's back at the Crucible after 3 years, after some real problems with his health and that sort of thing, and also Robin Hull, who obviously has landed the big one in the draw, playing the defending champion again, somebody who was last at the Crucible 12 years ago and has retired through ill health with his some difficulties with a irregular heartbeat and things. So there's some absolutely cracking stories, and it's been, the qualifiers has almost become an event in itself, I think, and they're all raring to go, and can't wait till Saturday now.
And you've been to so many events this season all around the world. You probably follow snooker as closely as anyone. Who do you think are the big favourites this year?
Well, I think obviously Ronnie, the bookmakers would say he almost can't be beaten. They priced him up as short as possibly Stephen Hendry was last, almost 20 years ago. But I mean, Ding Junhui has been the man of the season. 5 ranking titles. He's got to have a chance. Obviously, he's seeded to meet Ronnie in the semi-finals. I think that's a match a lot of neutrals would quite like to see. Although there's a lot of people in that half of the draw, I'm sure, will be trying to stop him. I mean, in terms of favourites, you'd obviously be looking at Neil Robertson. Possibly Judd Trump as well, but I mean, if I could just sort of pick out a couple of games, I think Ronnie against Robin Hull is a very intriguing tie for sure. If I was looking at a couple of possible shocks, I think Kyron Wilson, who's come through the qualifiers, will give Ricky Walden a game for sure. I think Martin Gould will give Marco Fu a tough match. So they're 2 that I would pick out. And then, would it be obviously great to see how the debutants get on? Michael Wasley against Ding, Robbie Williams against Neil Robertson. Zhao Guodong, I think, will give Ali Carter a run for his money as well.
Great, thanks Hector, and Barry Hearn, Chairman of World Snooker. Barry, it's a great draw, isn't it? And it's just wonderful. Looking forward to the tournament.
I think the message has been quite clear all season that we're going to have the most competitive World Snooker Championships we've ever had. The players have all had the year to sharpen their skills. They've had lots and lots of opportunities to play and to win money. Those that are good enough to get through, and the 16 qualifiers are all great players in their own right, have proved that they're worthy of sharing the stage with anybody at the Crucible. But, it's a best of 19. The experience factor comes in here heavily, because the Crucible is one of those great intense atmospheres that you don't come across outside of the really major blue ribbon world sporting events. This is the Super Bowl of snooker. This is the Wimbledon of snooker. This is everybody's cup final, and the 16 qualifiers won't be sleeping too well over the next couple of days, especially the debutants that haven't had that pressure on them when that curtain opens and the crowd's there. The event's sold out. There's going to be great atmosphere. Once the nerves settle, there are, as I think we've seen, there's a few players there that look to me to be capable of, but it's that big experience factor for me, is that having been there and gone through it, you're better prepared to put up with it. The unknown is not a nice place to be. No one will be complacent in the top 16 because they've been getting beat all year by some of these players anyway. So whereas bookmakers will have favourites and outsiders, the general advice over the first round is back the outsiders. Overall, you'll probably get a return on your investment. But the top 16 may well have something to say about that. But it's a fascinating draw, fascinating personalities, fascinating cross-section of cultures and countries that they represent. Obviously, global broadcasters this year, over 300 million people will watch the World Snooker Championships live. It has every ingredient to be a never-to-be-forgotten event, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think it's going to be the best World Championships we've ever seen.
One thing which might help the qualifiers is that the fact that the qualifying rounds are so close to the main event. They're all match sharp, aren't they?
Well, I think people have used that. I think it's a bit of an excuse, really. I think everyone's match sharp these days. I mean, you can make an argument to say that Ronnie O'Sullivan's had quite a relaxing season by most people's standards, not necessarily by his. I think he's played more this year than he played last year, certainly. But he's coming to the Crucible fresh, and that could be a plus, because 17 days of the type of mental pressure these guys are under is a factor. I think the big difference for me is if the qualifiers can cope with the enthusiasm and the excitement of what they're stepping into, they are in a no-lose position. With rankings being decided on ranking money now, there's an awful lot of movement in the world rankings, and a run in the World Championships can elevate your status and change your life. Simple as that. So for qualifiers who've battled through, especially the likes of people like Kyron Wilson, who've come through 3 rounds of qualifiers against 4 rounds of qualifiers, actually, isn't it? 4 rounds of qualifiers. He's already won. If he wins 4 matches, he's in the semi-finals. So he's only got to do it again, and of course that would elevate him to top 16 status. So there's an awful lot to play for, and if they can approach each game with I'm a good player or I wouldn't be here attitude, and I've got nothing to lose, so there's no pressure on me attitude, they could cause a lot of problems.
Well, thanks Barry, and thanks everyone for watching, and just a couple of days until the tournament starts. 10 a.m. at the Crucible on Saturday. Hope to see you there.
Great, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks,
good
Barry.
stuff.
Pleasure.